How do you feel about making history, Commander? Mira Coleman paused, staring at the holographic blueprint floating in front of her. The design of a Dyson Sphere, the ultimate symbol of a civilization's technological might, spanned the far reaches of the holographic projection, covering an entire star system. Each piece was a marvel of engineering, each equation a step towards the impossible. She leaned forward, her brow furrowed, her eyes focused on the shimmering expanse of stars and structures. "I don't think history is the right word," she said, voice steady but filled with an undercurrent of excitement. "What we're about to do goes beyond history. It's the future itself. This is a new beginning." Across from her, in the vast chamber of the Elysian Nexus, an ancient alien, the last of the Olaris, a race that once ruled galaxies in eons past, smiled in what could only be described as an enigmatic way. Its face, composed of smooth, translucent skin, reflected the star's light, glowing faintly in the dimness of the chamber. "I had hoped you'd say that, Mira," the alien responded in its smooth, melodic voice. "The Olaris have always sought to transcend boundaries, to reach for the impossible. But the question remains, can you truly see what we are attempting to build?" The creature's name was Kyy'reen, and although his species had long vanished from most records of galactic history, his mind was one of the sharpest the universe had ever seen. He had found Mira and her team of scientists when they were lost in a series of failed experiments, pushing the limits of human knowledge, barely keeping their ship intact. He had given them a chance to change their fate. Together, they were about to unlock the secrets of the cosmos. Mira turned to Kyy'reen, her thoughts settling for the moment. "The Dyson Sphere. It's not just about harnessing energy, is it?" Kyy'reen's gaze shifted to the holographic projection again, and for a moment, his alien eyes flickered with what seemed like nostalgia. "No, Mira, it is not. It is about survival. It is about the future of all life in this galaxy, and beyond. It had all begun several months ago. The partnership between humans and aliens had been a strange one, even by the standards of galactic diplomacy. The first encounter had been nothing like what Mira had imagined. She had envisioned grand speeches, high expectations, and political intrigue. What she didn't expect was an ancient alien craft, one that had crashed into the human-run space station Perseus, leaving behind an artifact that changed everything. At first, they had been careful. They thought it was just another piece of lost technology. But when Kyy'reen appeared, speaking in cryptic phrases and demonstrating knowledge of far more advanced science than anything Earth had achieved, they realized they had found something extraordinary. The Olaris race had been responsible for the oldest known galactic artifacts, their knowledge eclipsing even the most advanced human civilizations. They had left a legacy of power and knowledge, hidden, waiting to be unlocked. "Do you know what you're asking of me?" Mira had asked Kyy'reen, skeptical and curious. "You're asking humanity to build something no one has ever dared to even dream of. A Dyson Sphere. We don't even have the technology to build a single moon base yet." Kyy'reen's glowing eyes had fixed on her, his voice like a lullaby to the human mind. "And yet, you have something we do not, Commander. You have a will to evolve, to learn, to push beyond your limitations. That is why you will succeed where others have failed." It wasn't long before Mira and Kyy'reen began assembling a team, a diverse mix of human engineers, alien theorists, and a few beings from different corners of the galaxy who were curious enough to take part in what seemed like a mad quest. The team was small, but the resources they had access to were beyond anything Mira had ever imagined. Every corner of the galaxy seemed to have something to offer, some piece of technology that could help them toward their goal. Yet, there were challenges. The first major obstacle had been the power requirements. To even begin constructing a Dyson Sphere, an artificial structure that would completely encircle a star and harness its energy, the team needed a way to bend space-time itself. The star in question, Arcanes 4, had a volatile nature that made direct manipulation nearly impossible. Mira remembered the first time she looked at the star through the telescope. It burned with an intense energy that made her heart race. The Olaris had faced similar obstacles in their time, but they had overcome them by utilizing what Kyy'reen referred to as the nodes, fragments of ancient, alien technology scattered throughout the galaxy remnants of the Olaris' once great empire. I can show you where the nodes are, Kyy'reen had said, his voice soft, almost wistful. But remember, Commander, the nodes are not simple tools. They are sentient, in their way. To use them, you must first earn their trust. And so, Mira's team began their journey, chasing down these fragments of an ancient civilization. Every node they discovered brought them closer to unlocking the secrets of the Dyson Sphere. But as they advanced, they found themselves in the midst of something far darker than they had anticipated. There were others, other factions, other alien races who had been watching them from the shadows. Some wanted the technology for themselves, and others sought to destroy it. They believed that such power should not be allowed to fall into the hands of any single species. One of the most persistent threats came from the Vrel'tak, a ruthless, warlike race known for their cunning and advanced weaponry. They had been monitoring Kyy'reen for years, waiting for the moment when the Olaris would reveal their hidden secrets. As the tale unfolded, Mira found herself becoming not just the commander of a human team, but the leader of a galactic effort. Every decision, every technological breakthrough, came with its own weight. She had to balance the impossible demands of building the Dyson Sphere with the reality that enemies were closing in. And yet, the closer they got, the more the partnership between humans and aliens grew. An unspoken bond of trust and knowledge. Mira could not help but be in awe of Kyy'reen. The alien's mind, though ancient, was not one that rested on past laurels. It was always seeking, always trying to connect the dots between what was and what could be. Even the other alien members of the team, who had once been wary of Kyy'reen's motives, began to see him not just as a guide, but as a partner. He had never given them answers. They all had to find their own. But his insights were invaluable. "Do you think they will ever understand, Kyy'reen?" Mira asked, one night as the crew worked tirelessly on the latest node they had discovered. "Not all will," he answered softly. "Some will fear what they do not understand. Others will try to control it. But in the end, it is not about their understanding. It is about what we choose to do with this knowledge." Their work on the Dyson Sphere progressed slowly but steadily, but Mira's doubts remained. She had seen the dangers firsthand, the moments when the universe seemed to close in around them. There were times when it felt like they were on the verge of making a breakthrough only for everything to crumble. Yet, with each challenge, she saw the team grow stronger. They were united by a vision of a better, brighter future where humanity and aliens could live together, explore the stars, and build something truly magnificent. As the final pieces of the Dyson Sphere began to take shape around Arcanes 4, Mira couldn't help but think back to that first question Kyy'reen had asked her. "How do you feel about making history?" She smiled to herself, knowing now that it wasn't history they were making. It was the future, one where anything was possible, where the impossible was just the beginning. As Mira and her team moved closer to completing the Dyson Sphere, they began to see the full extent of the challenges they faced. They had crossed an invisible line, one that separated the known universe from the unknown. In their pursuit of the stars, they had touched things that no one, not even the Olaris, had dared to comprehend. But the closer they came to realizing the unimaginable, the more the dangers grew. One of the most pressing threats came in the form of the Vrel'tak. The ruthless warlords had been silent for months, but Mira knew that silence never lasted long. Their scouts, more stealthy and deadly than any she had encountered before, were closing in on the construction site. The human and alien alliance was fragile, and any hint of weakness would shatter it. The Vrel'tak, as ruthless as they were cunning, had learned of the Dyson Sphere project through intercepted transmissions. They knew that if Mira and her team succeeded, they would control the galaxy's most powerful energy source. The idea of such power falling into the hands of what they considered lesser species, humans and their newfound alien allies, was unacceptable. Mira stood on the bridge of the Elysian Nexus, staring out into the vast void of space. Kyy'reen, as always, was by her side, his translucent skin glowing faintly in the light of distant stars. "We need to finish the sphere, Kyy'reen," Mira said, voice strained with urgency, "before they can stop us. We're almost there. Just a few more days of construction, and we'll have the power we need to defend ourselves Kyy'reen studied her with a contemplative expression, his alien mind always several steps ahead. And if they attack before then? We'll have to fight back, Mira replied, her resolve firm. We've already taken too much from the universe to let them tear it all apart now. The Olaris had once wielded power over entire galaxies. Their technology was unmatched, their ability to manipulate space-time beyond comprehension. But they had faded into obscurity, leaving behind only cryptic relics and remnants of their civilization. Kyy'reen, the last of his kind, had been their sole survivor, one of the few who had witnessed the fall of an empire. He had never shown fear, but Mira could sense the weight of his memories bearing down on him. They will come, Kyy'reen said, his voice carrying the weight of 1,000 years. It is the way of the universe. Empires rise and fall. But what you are attempting now, it is beyond even the Olaris. Mira turned back to the holographic display of the Dyson Sphere, now nearly complete. The structure was magnificent, a shimmering web of light and energy, encircling the star, tapping into its boundless power. But it was also fragile. A mere moment of instability could cause a catastrophic chain reaction, destroying everything they had worked for. We can't afford to wait any longer, Mira said, determination in her voice. We must complete the final phase and activate the sphere before they reach us. It was at that moment that the first attack came. A sharp, cold tremor rippled through the nexus as an explosion rocked the station. Mira rushed to the control center, her heart racing. Kyy'reen followed close behind, his alien senses already picking up the faintest signals of incoming fire. The Vrel'tak had arrived. Shields up, Mira barked, her voice cutting through the chaos. Activate the defense grid. But it was too late. The Vrel'tak had come prepared. Their ships, sleek, deadly, and adorned with pulsating energy weapons, poured fire into the nexus, tearing apart the outer hull. Mira's team scrambled to react, but the Vrel'tak were too fast, too efficient. They had no intention of capturing the station. They wanted to destroy it. Kyy'reen moved with lightning speed, his alien reflexes a blur as he activated a series of emergency protocols. They will not stop us, Mira, he said, his voice calm despite the chaos. But we must act swiftly. As Mira watched the destruction unfold around her, a sense of helplessness threatened to overtake her. The Dyson Sphere, their most ambitious project, was within their reach, but the universe seemed intent on tearing it all apart. Suddenly, a deep rumbling sound filled the chamber, followed by a brilliant flash of light. The Elysian Nexus, in its final moments of desperation, had activated the Dyson Sphere's emergency power. A surge of energy so intense that it sent a shockwave rippling through the fabric of space itself. The Vrel'tak ships, caught in the pulse of energy, faltered, their systems overloaded by the immense power. The moment of chaos gave the Nexus just enough time to retaliate. In an instant, Mira's team launched their counterattack, using the advanced weaponry they had developed alongside Kyy'reen's alien technology. Target their central command, Mira ordered, her voice cutting through the air like a blade. The battle was fierce, but for the first time, Mira felt a surge of hope. The Dyson Sphere, still in its unfinished state, had given them the power they needed to fight back. The Vrel'tak ships began to retreat, their once pristine formations breaking apart as they scrambled to escape the overwhelming energy pulse. Mira watched as the last of their vessels vanished into the void. We did it, Mira said, breathing heavily, her heart still racing from the battle. Kyy'reen's voice was quiet, but filled with approval. This victory is but a moment. But it is a moment that changes everything. In the aftermath of the battle, the team set to work. With the Vrel'tak driven off, they had the precious time they needed to complete the Dyson Sphere. But the true challenge was not the technology, it was the philosophy behind it. Mira spent countless hours in meetings with Kyy'reen and with the other members of the team, contemplating the deeper consequences of what they had achieved. The Dyson Sphere was not just a tool of power. It was a symbol of potential. A potential that could change the way the entire galaxy interacted, forever altering the balance of power. We've built the sphere, Kyy'reen, Mira said one evening, standing in the control center, looking out at the sphere now fully operational. But what happens when we unleash this kind of power on the galaxy? Kyy'reen gazed at the structure, his eyes glowing with a mixture of pride and contemplation. It will change everything, Mira. But it is not the power of the sphere that matters. It is how we choose to wield it. The question is, are you ready to share it with the galaxy? And so, Mira and her team faced the greatest challenge of all, the moral decision of whether to share the power of the Dyson Sphere with the galaxy or keep it for themselves. The consequences of either choice were immense. To share it could bring unity, prosperity, and peace, but it could also lead to war, greed, and chaos. To keep it could ensure the safety of their species, but risk becoming the very thing they had fought against. In the end, Mira stood at the precipice of a new era, her mind made up. The future of the galaxy was no longer in the hands of any one species. It was in the hands of all who were willing to work together. The Dyson Sphere would be a beacon, not just of power, but of hope. "We will share it," Mira said, her voice steady, filled with the weight of her decision. "But we will do so on our terms. We will build something better, together." With that, the first chapter of the galaxy's new future began. One of cooperation, exploration, and boundless potential. The Dyson Sphere was no longer just a symbol of humanity's triumph over technology. It was a symbol of a galaxy united in purpose, driven by the shared will to push beyond the impossible. And together, they would build a future where the stars were not just something to look at, but something to reach for. In the days that followed Mira's decision, the galaxy shifted in ways that no one could have predicted. The Dyson Sphere, the greatest marvel of human and alien ingenuity, was fully operational, encircling the star Arcanis 4 with an intricate web of advanced technology. The energy it generated was enough to fuel entire star systems, offering boundless resources and the promise of an era of prosperity. Mira, however, couldn't shake the nagging feeling that they had merely unlocked a door to something far more complicated. There had been no shortage of ambitious species, eager to harness the power of the sphere for themselves. While the alliance between humans and Kyy'reen's people had held steady, new players had entered the scene. Alien factions, once isolated and neutral, were now showing interest, some even demanding their fair share of the resources. "It's just the beginning," Kyy'reen said, as they stood together on the observation deck of the Nexus, watching the Dyson Sphere slowly spin in the distance. "We have opened a path to a new kind of future, but the challenges ahead are more complex than we can foresee." Mira nodded, but felt the weight of the responsibility pressing down on her. They had created something that could change everything, but with such power came the inevitable strain of decisions that might fracture the delicate alliances they had built. The very thing that was meant to unite the galaxy had the potential to divide it. It wasn't long before the first test of Mira's decision came. A powerful alien faction, the Drath'naa, a race of technologically advanced beings known for their military prowess and cold pragmatism, arrived at the Nexus. Their ships were sleek, with weapons that seemed to hum with the power of dark energy. They came in peace, or so they said. The Drath'naa demanded immediate access to the Dyson Sphere's energy. They insisted that they were entitled to a portion, arguing that their technological superiority warranted their claim. The negotiation was tense, with Mira at the center of it. Despite the peaceful overtures, she could see the unspoken threat in their eyes. Their words were just the beginning. "We have given you our trust," Mira said, standing firm as she faced their representative, a towering figure named Trax, whose skin was like dark obsidian and whose eyes gleamed with a faint, unsettling red light. "But this power is not something you can simply take. It must be shared, with respect, for the good of all. We cannot allow it to be used as a tool of oppression." Trax's expression remained unchanged, but Mira could feel the chill in his gaze. "You misunderstand, Commander. We do not ask for permission. We demand access. The balance of power in this galaxy is shifting, and those who control the energy of a star will control the future. If you stand in our way, you will face the consequences." Kyy'reen stepped forward, his alien form emanating an aura of calm. "You are making a grave mistake, Trax. The Dyson Sphere was not built to serve a single race, or to fuel the ambitions of tyrants. You will not be allowed to use it for conquest. The tension in the room escalated. Mira felt the rising pressure. This wasn't just about a battle for energy. It was a battle for the soul of the galaxy. If the Drath'naa took control, it could mean the end of the cooperation they had fought so hard to build. "You are mistaken, Commander," Trax replied. "This galaxy is no longer yours to shape. It is ours to command." The confrontation with the Drath'naa escalated quickly. Mira had expected some level of negotiation, but she hadn't anticipated the outright aggression that followed. The Drath'naa, refusing to wait any longer, launched a surprise attack on the Nexus, attempting to seize control of the Dyson Sphere. The battle was brutal. Despite their advanced technology, the Drath'naa had underestimated the resolve of Mira's alliance. Kyy'reen and the human engineers had worked tirelessly to equip the Nexus with defensive systems that were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Dyson Sphere itself, still partially incomplete, began to pulse with immense energy, sending shockwaves across the system, disrupting the Drath'naa's communications and weapon systems. "We can't hold them off for long," Mira said, as she watched the Drath'naa fleet grow larger on the view screen. The once glistening space station was now a battlefield. The stakes had become clear. If they lost this battle, the Dyson Sphere, along with all the future it represented, would fall into the hands of a war-hungry race. "We will not fail," Kyy'reen assured her, his voice calm amidst the chaos. "But we cannot do it alone. We need the cooperation of the galaxy, now more than ever. We need to show them that unity is our strength." At that moment, Mira made a decision that would echo across the galaxy for centuries to come. She reached out to the other factions, the ones who had been watching from the shadows, waiting for an opportunity to act. There were the Vrel'tak, a peaceful species of biotechnologists who had long advocated for ecological preservation. The Zarn, a fleet of nomadic traders who had recently united under a new banner of cooperation. And even the Kyy'reen, an enigmatic race of sentient gas beings who communicated through electromagnetic pulses. Each of these species had their own reasons for hesitating. Some feared the consequences of engaging in such a high-stakes conflict. Others simply didn't trust the humans or the Olaris. But Mira knew that if they were to stand a chance, they had to put their differences aside and unite. The Drath'naa represented a threat to everyone's future, not just theirs. Now is the time. Mira sent out the rallying message to the galaxy, to unite, to stand together against those who would seek to divide us. If we are to shape the future, we must do it as one. Her message was met with skepticism by some, but to her surprise, the response was swift. The Vrel'tak sent a fleet of peaceful yet highly effective ships equipped with biological weapons capable of disabling the Drath'naa's technology. The Zarn provided supplies and reinforcements, ready to fight for the shared future. Even the Kyy'reen, who could not physically fight, broadcasted their powerful electromagnetic waves to disrupt the Drath'naa's weapon systems. With these new allies at her side, Mira led a counteroffensive. The final battle for control of the Dyson Sphere was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. It wasn't just a battle of technology, it was a battle of ideologies. On one side stood the Drath'naa, who believed in the power of domination. On the other stood Mira and her alliance, who believed in unity, cooperation, and the hope that the future of the galaxy could be shaped by everyone, not just the few. In the end, it was the unity of the galaxy that won the day. The Drath'naa fleet, overwhelmed by the combined forces of the galaxy's peaceful factions, was forced to retreat. The Dyson Sphere was safe, for now. As Mira stood before the completed Dyson Sphere, the flickering light of distant stars reflecting in her eyes, she knew that the battle was far from over. The galaxy had been changed, but the real test would come in how they chose to use the power of the sphere. "We've done it," she said quietly to Kyy'reen. "But the hard part is still ahead." Kyy'reen nodded. "Indeed. But remember, Mira, the galaxy now has a choice. And you, together with your allies, have shown them that the future can be different. Not one of power and conquest, but of cooperation and hope." And as Mira looked out at the vast expanse of the galaxy, at the Dyson Sphere that would serve as the beacon of a new era, she realized that they had done more than just build a monument of power. They had ignited a movement that would change the course of history. The future, it seemed, was no longer a question of who would control the stars, but how they would share them.